So if you have some medical questions, I know she has some medical stories, right? We went over some of those last night. Good stories. And Hannah's over there, brought in donuts this morning. Thanks for feeding my delinquency.
I thought since, she was here in studio, I wanted a front row. I wanted a front row
all
view.
Good.
John Marsh, she sets me up for total humiliation. She knows I can't resist donuts. And so there's a new donut shop.
We know who's in charge around here.
Yeah, I know.
There's no kidding anymore.
Yeah. New donut shop in California, is that right? Yeah, good.
It was open bright and early this morning. So
yeah, and I thought maybe it was a franchise, John, of the one of the donut shops we like here in town, Eliana's Donuts down on Grindstone. And Hannah informs me that no, the boxes are ubiquitous and
it's just
generic.
Just a generic donut box. Yeah.
Well, I thought the donuts from Mars were special because it said yum. It makes them taste better when it says yum.
Yes, right.
Whatever you
it's
say,
a marketing thing, yeah.
Yes, be smart.
I know. Well, the execution happened last night. Brian Hauswirth will be in to report on that, the execution of Brian Dorsey, after a lot of last-minute attempts, throughout the weekend and into yesterday. The Arizona Supreme Court has restored an 1800s-era law, making it punishable by prison if a woman gets an abortion. That's an interesting twist of events yesterday. Yeah. And it's just, it goes to show you this is such a powerful topic. And I know we keep talking about it, but that's because people are talking about it. And we're going to continue to try to, figure where is this going to play in the political card game that's going on this year. The House has delayed their impeachment transition articles across the Capitol in a very dramatic ceremony. Mike Johnson has delayed that. I guess they don't have the votes over there, but they didn't have the votes to begin with. Yeah. So that's another big story that we're looking at this morning to see what's happening there. And locally, John, I don't know if you've seen any of the court documents, but as I was coming in today, Brian's all worked up over this murder, this knifing murder in Douglas Park. Apparently pretty dramatic, very violent, as those stabbings generally are.
The document said the suspect tased the person and then slashed their throat and stabbed them a couple dozen times. It's pretty grim.
Gosh, whoa.
Wow. I don't know. The violent capacity of humankind is amazing. It never fails to amaze me. You think about this Arizona couple that I think set a precedent, a legal precedent. Tomorrow when Jen Bukowski's in, we're going to ask her about that and about whether this is as precedent-setting as the media and everyone seems to be saying. So now parents can be held culpable for the violent actions of their children, apparently. John,
Gary Nolan was sure sounding off yesterday.
Oh, really? I didn't get a chance to hear
that. No, he did not agree in any way, shape, or form.
Wow. Interesting. Well, but I guess that would probably, I think I could maybe go down that path and think about that if we didn't have juvenile laws, right? I mean, if we just basically said, I'm sorry, you're 12, you're 14, you're 15, you're 17, whatever. Right. You don't have to be 18. You murder people, you're going to you're getting lethal injection. You're getting executed, whatever, however.
Sort of on the backside of the story coming out of the Hazelwood East fight with the girl, clinging to life and all that. We had Missouri Attorney General Andrew Bailey on throwing down some shade big time on Missouri's judicial court system. Yeah, boy, that was pretty powerful. I mean, he said they are not doing their job, essentially, right? I'm paraphrasing, but he said they're just not doing their job. Yeah.
I think they need to go on a case-by-case basis as far as holding the parents culpable. If this kid really had all the signs of having real problems, and that he was ignored, that's what I think.
Well, they reviewed a little bit of the facts of the case last evening on one of the news reports, and they showed a picture of what looks like a test or a quiz or something that the kid had written on there, and that the principal or authorities at the school had called the mom in and showed her where he said, help me.
Help me.
I'm going to shoot someone or something, help me.
Right.
Wow. How much more evidence do you need to say, why don't you take a look around the kid's room, under the bed springs? And then they bought a gun for him.
Yeah, I don't know. I think it's a case by case.
I know when our kids were of that adolescent experimenting with, a six-pack out in the park age, I don't know when that age begins.
I was
going to
say, what age is that exactly?
Well, the adolescent age. I don't know.
It depends. It's different for each kid.
She and I never did that, so we had a tough time raising kids.
Honestly,
no, we didn't.
No, really. I mean, honestly,
we were
weirdos. Not good parents. We had no clue.
I wouldn't. Well, hang on.
We were good parents.
Naive parents. We were naive parents.
Right. Naive is a better word.
What do you mean, not good parents?
But I mean, we were clueless about the stuff kids could do because we didn't do it.
Because she worked for her dad at the dad's office. I worked, and then at Six Flags at night.
Right.
I was working alongside my dad at at a bandstand till I was 15, 16, and then after that, 16, 17. Then after that, I was working with older guys on a bandstand 4 or 5 nights a week. So I was always working around adults. I didn't have much playtime. I had to grow up early,
I feel that.
Yeah, you know that. So we didn't, and we're still working on it. And but
no, that's not true.
John, I couldn't resist. I couldn't resist.
He's a very mature young lady.
I couldn't resist. No, and we're thankful for your youth because you keep us happy and you keep us on track to not be. As you get older, you get a little more cynical and pessimistic. So it's good to have the optimism of youth. We love that. That's what's great about the family here on the show. So we really did not engage in that kind of stuff, and we went out on a date. We went out to a movie and a dinner, and then or whatever. Maybe not a dinner, maybe just popcorn at the movie. Then I drop you off at home,
right?
And so we didn't do that, right? We just didn't have time.
So then, when
the kids were doing that,
like Sammy, when she was on last week, she's saying she pulled the big party at our house when we were in Hawaii. So really, I mean, we were clueless.
But I remember there was a lot of controversy at the time because they passed a law in St. Louis, in I guess it was probably St. Louis County must have passed the law. Maybe it was, because we were in the county, that parents could be held responsible if they knew their kid. Because a lot of parents, it was getting fashionable for parents to hold parties where their kids could drink. The argument being, well, I'd rather have you drinking at home. And I thought, how preposterous is that? It's illegal.
Against the law, and if the way most Missouri law reads, your kid gets involved in an accident or something where somebody is injured or killed, you are responsible if you've been knowingly allowing them to drink underage.
Yeah. And so parents did get prosecuted for that, and I thought that it was proper. So I guess this is just a little higher stakes version of that. But these people are going away for 10 to 15 years.
Yes.
The husband and wife. And I mean, I don't know. I think there's a lot of people on the left. They're saying, there you go, those crazy MAGA people buying guns for their kids, And I don't know who they supported politically.
Yeah, doesn't matter. It just.
Well, speaking of violence in our country, in our state, in our fair city, Brian Hauswirth, man, the details on this stabbing. You outlined it briefly yesterday morning without all the details, but now you're aware of them.
Well, we were aware of them, and one thing I said, Randy and Helene, good to see you, and John and Hannah as well. The one thing I know from covering multiple murders in this park before, this is not the first one. This is a number of homicides. As I said on air, they had surveillance cameras all over, and the police aren't going to mind me saying it because we've reported on it, and it's been in trial, so I knew that they had cameras set up.
Maybe it's a good thing for youngsters to know, adolescents who are partying to know. Maybe they should show these cameras in every schoolhouse in the land and make sure that everyone knows you're on camera, folks, when you're acting out in a park.
I don't know if it would do any in this particular case. I mean, this man, according to the court document, actually laughed when he was being interrogated by the CPD because he allegedly used a taser on the victim. The details are horrible, but I'm going to share I'll give you the Reader's Digest. He is claiming self-defense. They get into a fight, some sort of a fight. We don't know if they knew each other. That's all redacted, so I don't know if it was random. We don't know that. But the suspect's name is Demetrius Tatum, 38 years old, lengthy criminal history going all the way back to 2008. Again, resisting arrest. I got it in the story, assault, drug possession, trespassing, multiple convictions. He says he killed the guy in self-defense. He says the guy hit him in the back of the head with a bottle, and that according to him, this is his words here, it's about respect. He couldn't let it go after being hit in the back of the head, so he says it was self-defense. The details are in the court document, and basically he's accused of using a taser on the guy. of stabbing him 20 times and also cutting his throat. And so and he is facing potentially the death penalty on this.
Oh my God!
Now I will warn you, I do have the story up on our website, 939theeagle.com and kws.com. He appears to have, you can look at it on the website, it looks like his eye is swollen shut, so I'm not sure if that's from the beer bottle hitting him over the head, but there is really some offensive language used in the, and that's putting it mildly. I'll just keep it at that in the court documents. So, but again, a lot of it's redacted, but the police did not redact all of it out there, but this is just, these details are just horrendous. And then he's
got a minute and a half.
He's potentially facing the death penalty. Yeah,
people want to hear it, Brian.
I know they do, but it's just it's just.
Okay. Was there anything leading up to it? Was it strictly an event?
We don't know that. And it's a great question. Exactly. And I know a lot of people ask that. The court documents just indicate a fight right there in the park.
Okay.
And it doesn't say if they knew each other or whatever. The suspect's 38. The man that was killed was 22.
Do we know anything about
Kawan Allen?
Does it say whether they had any previous relationship, or does it go into that?
It either doesn't go into it, or again, you can see this. I linked to it on the website. Yeah. It's so heavily redacted. If it's in there, it's redacted.
Okay.
My gut feeling is it's possible, but you never know.
Yeah.
So, and we don't know what caused it, but he stayed at the scene. He didn't leave the scene. And
for folks who don't know, where is Douglas Park? Not everyone may know that.
No, it's. I guarantee you, most of them drive by it all the time and don't realize it. It's right at Providence and 5th Street. Okay. It's really a block or two from the downtown area. It's right there. Right there. I mean, it's right there. Wow. And this would have been somewhere in the park.
Is that the area where they were going to? There was something like a development going to go there, and they were going to buy housing, or is that?
That's down a little bit.
That's east.
Okay.
That would be. Let me think here. That would be actually just a little bit south of there, and they are going to do that. The housing down there dates to 1964. Yeah. Very close there.
Okay,
very
so
close.
Right there in the center of town,
it's
essentially.
Central. It's Central Columbia.
My goodness.
And
so, is it known for a place where, drug deals are going down, or homeless people hanging out, or?
I haven't heard too much about homeless people. Yes, in years past, it's been widely known. In years past, they've tried to clean it up, but there was many years ago. It was well known. There's a pavilion there. Drugs were sold under that pavilion.
Okay.
But they've tried. I mean, you've got a lot of families out there. You have a lot of kids.
Yeah.
And then you've got this criminal element as well. I mean, this is.
about that. Get a little update on the goings on in the Missouri legislature as well. And Locke Thompson, what a great name, Locke Thompson. He's the prosecutor for Cole County, and he'll be in to talk about a restitution fund for law enforcement. So that'll be a fascinating talk because Lord knows we need all the help we can for law enforcement these days. They're a besieged group. But it's time for the Daily DC Rundown. Joe Biden pandering, starting with debt forgiveness. Not one, not two, not three, but four pandering Joe Biden moments. We talked about debt forgiveness. Here's President Joe Biden talking about the second pandering to potential voters.
What I'm calling for is for the Israelis to just call for a ceasefire, allow for the next 6-8 weeks total access to all food and medicine.
All right, pandering to the anti-Israel border. Here's pandering number 3. Now suddenly when he said it couldn't be done, that is presidential action to shut down the border, even though Donald Trump did it for 4 years, Joe Biden's suddenly found new life, new energy, new hope that he and he alone can manage the border.
There's no guarantee that I have that power all by myself without legislation. And someone suggested I should just go ahead and try it. And if I get shut down by the court, I get shut down by the court.
He's going to try it. They'll try to buy some of those center-right votes.
But isn't this something he should have already tried?
Yes,
Hello.
right.
Almost,
It's getting closer to election time.
Seems timely, doesn't it, Hannah?
Yes.
And
Yeah,
then,
over 3 years into his, presidency. Come on, man.
Yes.
There's not a fundamental difference in the value set between Irish Catholic neighbors I grew up and Latinos. It's about faith. It's about family. It's about togetherness. It's about having each other's back. And he doesn't share any of those notions.
So now he has the corner of the market on having others back.
Right.
Yeah, just like the 70-year-old grandma who is in prison because she prayed in the Capitol Rotunda on January 6th. Yeah, Joe, putting Peter Navarro in leg irons because he was in contempt of court while Alejandro Mayorkas and so many others go unscathed. Yeah, Joe, we get it. This guy is the most vile, disingenuous, 2025, we'll have AI that's smarter than humans. Now, what does that mean?
Now,
what does that mean?
Before we get too deep into this,
what do you mean,
Randy?
Yes.
We need to clarify because AI means different things to different folks.
What do you mean? Elon Musk said it. It must be true.
When I think of AI, the first thing that comes to mind, even after all these years, is artificial insemination.
Well,
so,
as a highly trained reproductive health specialist, yes, I can see where you might think that. But
so we just need a little clarifier.
That's because your young mind is always going down that direction.
No, it's because of my ag background.
Yeah, I was going to say your ag background. I was just thinking of that.
Your ageism is showing, Randall.
John, she tries to pawn it off on her ag background.
Thinking about those cattle.
Yeah. Well, no, really, I understand what you're saying, and it is obviously what's a mainstay of domestic animal husbandry, right? I mean, you got to do that. And so here's the deal, though. Okay, so I see that quote from Elon Musk, and I think we all are on pins and needles. I don't know about you all, but I am, about whenever there's something that has such great potential to advance the way in which we can live our lives and maybe save time and efficiencies and research. Stephanie has talked about it, where if she's researching maybe some gaming law in some other state, or even, she does a quick, thing. I think I've heard her say that, does a quick search on AI and gets a little groundwork factually. Sure. I think from a technical perspective, AI can be helpful.
I've used it for creative writing purposes. If I, need a little prompt to get started. Yeah.
Is it creative then, or is it just
sometimes?
AI? Uh-huh.
I don't know. The few times when it first came out, we tried it. All it did was, when we tried to get it to write some test news stories, all it did was pull things out of the air and put in a bibliography of requested reading, then tried to look them up, and the stories in the books did not exist.
Yeah, right.
I think it said that I was a member of some black journalism club, and I had two children.
Multiple kids, yeah.
So I was looking up the other day. I don't know why. I think I just finished mowing the lawn. I wondered what the Cardinals had done. I hadn't been able to listen to the game. And I said, hey, how are the Cardinals doing? The game was already over, and it told me that they hadn't done very well. This was Sunday when they lost 10-3. They hadn't done very well, but the season so far shows to be a promising start for the Cardinals. One of these generic, fluffy, terms. Yeah. It really was not as accurate as I would have liked it to be. But here's the deal that troubles me. So we have a lot of students that, whose parents may be listening, whether they're in grade school, high school, college here in one of the many area colleges. Students have, according to Wired, an online magazine, students have submitted more than 22 million papers that may have used generative AI in the past year. This is released by plagiarism detection company Turnitin, Turnitin.
Turnitin.
Turn it in.
Turn it in.
Oh, yeah, turn it in. I get it. Okay, good. I was just reading it literally here.
Yeah.
Okay, turn it in. I get it. Oh, it's really okay. A year ago, Turnitin rolled out an AI writing detection tool that was trained on its trove of papers written by students as well as other AI-generated text. So more than 200 million papers have been reviewed by the detector. So is this a piece of software that the universities have?
Yeah, so when you turn in a writing assignment, and some professors actually set it up to where as soon as you clicked submit on your, because you turn everything in online now.
Right.
As soon as you would click submit on your assignment, it would immediately run it, and it would immediately tell you what your plagiarism score was. Really? And so you wanted a low plagiarism score, obviously, and then anything above a certain threshold was flagged as plagiarism.
Whoa.
Turnitin
Randall
found that 11% may contain AI written language in 20% of its content, 3% of the total papers reviewed getting flagged for having 80% or more. Now, John, you and I both know, Helene,
this is going to be an old person thing. Yep.
Well, no, you would have. There's plagiarism in a way happened when you wrote handwritten papers, but you would try to paraphrase something that you had read somewhere else.
Right, correct.
Is that considered plagiarism? I don't think so. I mean, and you would reference things as,
You have to reference all of it.
Yeah, you might say, as Elon Musk said about AI, it's liable to be smarter next year than it is this year. Something like that. But you've given attribution, right? I think the problem here is there's nothing wrong with borrowing someone's idea. You just need to give attribution.
Right, and that's one of the things that software looks for. But if you're, quoting something or there's multiple words strung together that you didn't, paraphrase, the software flags that, and it'll actually tell the professor, it can identify the source that it, is accusing you of using, which is kind of weird. But
well, that said, they claim Turnitin. They have no. I'm just going to do that just to sort of, it says its detector has a false positive rate of less than 1%. A lot of surgeons will tell you that their complication rate is less than the national complication rate. Yeah. I mean, come on. Right. That's just. So there's a little conflict of interest here when the company says its false positive rate is less than 1%. Okay, I'm just a knuckle dragging sloth here. I know that, but why don't we just go back to writing? You've got an hour to write a 500-word essay. Just do it in class. Handwrite it. Turn it in.
But then, the brain of one professor trying to pick up on plagiarism.
But you'd sit there in a classroom and you would write the essay.
But part of research papers is still using references and things like that. So you would still need to be able to quote your material.
Not a problem with that. That's different than plagiarizing. I think it would be much easier for professors. I think, dare I say, maybe professors want to blame Turnitin and all of the problems with AI on the fact that they don't want to just go through and hand grade papers anymore.
Ooh. That's
I'm
tough.
just saying.
Well, typically they're still grading the actual paper because Turnitin isn't going to grade the content of your paper necessarily. It's just looking for plagiarism, or now I guess AI. It's not actually grading the quality of your paper. Mm-hmm. So the professor still has to go back through.
And go do that, yeah.
All right. I don't
know. If they have 500 students and they required a 6-page paper, it at least cuts some of that time off for the professor, right?
Maybe we should need some oral arguments. You do oral exams. You just have a little 5-minute deal with the professor. Who has 500 students? No one has 500
I was
students.
just wondering.
Yeah.
I was wondering, are there some papers, just wondering, goes it the other way, that they say they're AI generated, but they're not. Calling out
false
wrongly,
positive.
Positive.
Yeah,
does that happen too?
Yes.
I think this is the dumbing down of America. This is just another example of the dumbing down of America.
No,
That's what this is.
Especially a lot of your prerequisite classes at big universities.
Right.
I had several classes in big 500-seat lecture halls that were fairly full.
But did you have to write papers, or was it just multiple? Like we took an Asian philosophy course, and I remember, crazy professor, Dr. Griezedick. Remember him?
No,
crazy guy.
What was the last name?
Griezedick. Like the Griezedick Brewery.
Like the brewery, yeah. Papa Joe.
From St. Louis, yeah.
Okay.
Falstaff.
That's what I thought you said.
So,
okay.
But he was crazy. But the guy he's one of these guys, he'd walk and pace back and forth with his hand on his forehead.
He was really good.
Your classical
very
professor, just looking at the ground, sort of a Jordan Peterson-esque kind of a presence. But it was multiple choice or short fill-in-the-blank test. And it was a survey level course. I mean, there's a way to figure out, how are you going to figure out what people really know? How are you going to figure out, and how are you going to figure out if people can really process and do inductive reasoning? Inductive.
I mean, I don't know if a multiple choice test really gauges that either. You could just be really good at guessing.
Oh, come on now. What do you mean could be really good at guessing?
You have a 25% chance of getting it right if you get 4 options in front of you?
We had to do one paper in that class. We did have to do a paper.
I don't remember that.
I do.
I
remember.
I helped you with that,
didn't not. I did my own papers. The heck with that.
But no, I have followed the story. It's probably been about a year ago now. There was a girl on TikTok who kind of blew up a little bit because of her ongoing saga with her university. She was accused by one of these, AI detection sources for using AI on a paper that she had written, and she swore up and down that she had not used AI. and she really had to duke it out with the professor and then, the student boards at the university, and they ultimately, they did not overturn their decision.
Really?
On her, but she fought that for months and ended up losing that battle, even though she presented to them, the statistics on these AI detection softwares. They're really not that accurate.
See?
And she brought all this research to them, and they didn't care.
Well, it's interesting, too, and there's another angle to this. You know how we talk about bias and systemic bias and implicit bias, and there's all this bias and that bias. There's the bias on your tires on your car. There's all kinds of bias. A 2023 study found that 61% of false positive rate when evaluating tests of English as foreign language exams and detection tools have a risk of bias, so that English language learners may be more likely to set them off. So here you go. Now people will claim I'm a victim because I'm an English as second language person. I don't know.
We got a text from Aaron at 874-9390 who says, I teach an engineering course at Mizzou, and I have 250 students. And the whole course is all problem solving.
Yes, Aaron. Aaron is my winner of the week. Aaron. Okay, for Friday, I'm put this on the winners of the week. Aaron validates what I'm saying.
Aaron, don't get your hopes up. He's gonna forget before Friday.
No, I won't. There's a way. No, we have a marker. I have a list here. I have a list going. So
yeah, and you've never lost your paper list, right?
Never. And so
that silence was loud.
Kind of a pregnant pause.
No, I think there's a way that, yes, I don't think AI is here to stay. Professors and students are going to have to find a way. And if you're a student, do you really want to You know, one of the coolest things about our interactive, we have the text, we have the phone, we have the Facebook, we have the YouTube. Are we still on YouTube?
Yeah.
And we haven't been thrown off yet?
Knock on wood.
I have to work harder.
Hey, now.
We're not on X, right? Are we on X too? Do we do X?
We are individually, but not.
But no, we
as a
don't
show.
broadcast on X.
Right.
Okay. But what's cool is the interaction with you guys that are the smartest people on the planet. It's really,
Most of you guys.
I don't care what I don't care what Elon Musk says about AI is going to be smarter than the smartest human in end of 25. But we're going to get back to this because there's a number of fascinating from teachers and professors and stuff. So we're going to get back to this. Very interesting thoughts. Your thoughts about AI in the classroom and this turn it in, not turn it tin.
There you go.
Turn it in bot AI that professors and schools are using. They use it in high school. They're using it at all levels, right? Right, Hannah?
I'm not sure about high school. My personal experience with it was in college.
Okay. Were you slammed for plagiarism in college?
I was not.
Okay.
Because colleges tend to kick students out for that kind of stuff.
So I was going through some of Hannah's social media, which usually once I get into it occupies most of my evening. Like, you're very prolific.
Yes, because there's so much.
Very prolific on the social media you are, Hannah, and I'm thankful for that. That's good. That's good. So the other day you were lamenting the fact that hubby had to, did he have to, or did he just choose to shave his beard?
He chose to sign up for a class that required him to shave.
Okay.
So he chose to shave his beard because he could have made an alternative class selection.
It's a good class for him to take, but yes.
Are you willing to share what class that is?
It's a firefighting class.
Yeah, probably not good to have a beard if you're going into a fire.
The whole deal is on facial hair other than mustaches. You can't get your mask.
Yeah.
Which are fitted to each person individually.
Okay.
If you've got a beard and all, for a lot of folks, it doesn't seal.
That was a problem with COVID because we had an anesthetist who had a big fluffy Santa Claus-like beard, and he couldn't get a well-fitting N95 mask.
And most full-time fire departments actually have, rules that say you can't grow facial hair.
Yeah.
He's on a volunteer department, so they don't necessarily have those rules.
Yeah.
But yeah, this is a class on how to put out propane fires.
Okay.
So pretty important.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then we weren't sure whether, Hannah, I think, Hannah, you've made a light of it, but then when I saw this and heard this, here's Hannah on her TikTok video.
Producer _ Hannah.
And producer _ Hannah. And she's looking sort of melancholy.
Yeah.
Forlorn.
And here's what happens.
My husband just told me he doesn't love me anymore.
That's not what I said. I said I just have to shave my beard.
That's the same thing. My husband just told me he doesn't love me anymore.
That's not what I said. I said I just have to shave my beard.
That's the same thing.
Okay, now, Hannah, was that just some humor, or are you truly struggling with this transition of your husband to a beardless, clean-shaven face?
I'm good now.
Yeah?
Sunday when he shaved the beard, I was not so good. We have known for about a month that this was coming. And, I kind of, joked about it, all these things. Thought I was actually okay with it. But as soon as he started actually shaving it off, I started bawling.
Really?
I was so embarrassed for myself. And he started shaving, and then he turns over and sees me. I'm sitting in the bathroom with him, and he goes, "Oh my God, you're crying." I ended up. He tells me, he's like, I think you need to call someone. I FaceTimed my mom. She sees me crying. I'm like, Brandon's shaving his beard.
Oh my. Well,
it was an ordeal, but he looks great.
Is it true that if we were to do a search of your phone searches, that a divorce attorney may or may not be on there?
No.
It's not that bad. talking about the failure of Chuck Schumer to man up and have a proper trial for Alejandro Mayorkas, who has, I think, absolutely betrayed his oath to the Constitution. He has absolutely been a profligate open borders guy while lying to the Congress, telling the Congress that the border's secure. With his head held arrogantly high, the border's secure. The guy is the most smug, arrogant bureaucrat that I think we have. Pete Buttigieg just, second behind him. I mean, that's just ridiculous. Well, we're going to be talking with Cheri Toalson-Reisch here as we move along on the program. Later on, Cole County prosecuting attorney Locke Thompson will join us at 7:35. And, John, that'll be an important conversation about a law restitution fund that he's about. So, guess who just walked in our studio?
I saw her zoom right by the window.
She ran in the studio. Cheri Toalson-Reisch, representative, of course, from our area, joins us here on Wake Up Mid-Missouri. Good morning.
Good morning. I was running in the door at traffic.
And you stopped by on your way to the Capitol, right?
I have to be there at 8. At 8. Okay. Committee meeting, education.
Okay. Well,
very important.
We'll get you out of here with plenty of time. So tell us what the meeting on education is about today.
We're just hearing different bills.
A committee, a public hearing type thing?
Oh, yeah. It's elementary and secondary education.
Yeah.
I sit on 6 committees, so I've always got meetings going on all days, every day.
We were just talking about AI and its influence on learning. One of the engineering professors from Mizzou said, hey, I got the solution to that. Everything's technical, on his. And another one said, let's have them handwrite the papers, so. But it is a concern, isn't it?
The old-fashioned way, like when we were in grade school.
Yes.
Pre-computers.
Would you tell Hannah that about the value of writing? One of the teachers said, I want to have my students handwrite that. I've thought about doing it. She said the handwriting's so atrocious it wouldn't work out.
We've been trying to mandate cursive writing, and kids don't know how to write or read cursive.
Yeah. And yet, one of the most touching things that anyone can receive is a handwritten letter, right?
Yes.
I mean, when you get a handwritten letter, you probably get them.
I get a lot of thank you notes, handwritten notes.
Because you are truly a public servant in the sense, and I love to tell the story. Remember last spring, I think, or summer, after an appearance on my afternoon program, you sat here right next to me and you watched me do the keystrokes. No, go there, point there. And we did the unclaimed property thing.
I've been doing it. I had a group in my office yesterday and I sat down and did them all. And I had a group a week ago and over 50% of them had money. I have an appointment this weekend with a constituent to get them their money.
Well, we're thankful and many other people are thankful because of you.
All right. John Marsh is down there, and I know he's itching to ask you a question as you head down to the Capitol to join us today.
Cheri, the voters in Boone County approved the proposition for the property tax freeze for seniors at the polls. Now it's over to the county commission. What's next for those folks? What's the commission have to do to put this on the books?
So there's actually 3 moving parts here. I was pleased. It was overwhelmingly for such a small April election turnout. But they've already kind of indicated they're only going to have a $300,000 value on your home limit. And I foresee them not doing it across the board. So my plan is I'm still collecting signatures. I have to get 4,600. I'm well over 3,000. And I have till about the first part of June. I will get those signatures. Mine will be on the November ballot. And what mine will do is freeze it no matter what your house is valued at and across the board for all taxing entities. So I'm very encouraged since it passed once. I just don't have confidence in this county commission to do anything. And the schools are coming out with these fake numbers. I mean, pie in the sky that they're going to lose all this money, and it's not true. And in fact, I'm working with Cole County because their commissioners aren't doing it, and I have some citizens wanting to move forward with the petition process. I've worked with other counties throughout the state.
It's it's interesting. There's some interesting arguments around this whole issue. The people at the Show Me Institute, we talk with David Stokes. It's a reasonable thought. It's like, hey, if it's good for senior citizens, shouldn't it be good for everyone? Let's talk about equity and equality in terms of the way we tax people and the way we treat people.
Yeah, when do you ever see your taxes go down? Now, when I was mayor of Hauswirth for 4 years, we actually lowered and rolled back our taxes 4 years straight. We used to be the lowest sales tax in Boone County, and now they've had 3 since I left as mayor. So we're getting taxed to death, and we need some kind of relief.
Cheri Toalson-Reisch joins us, of course, state representative here in Missouri, terming out, and but running for county commissioner in Boone County. Yeah. By the way, do you have some infrastructure up and running now? Because you just recently
I just filed the committee, and so the thing is, I am very busy in Jeff City with my current job. I will be working extremely hard in the Capitol till we're out of session in May. So I get it passed at the August primary, so the hard work will be later.
Good. What do you think of Lisa Meyer, Second Ward Alderwoman?
So
here?
exciting. She is a friend of mine. She works so hard. I did help her a little bit on her campaign. And
I know you did. And she's a law and order person, too, which is good.
Yes, we back the blue.
Lord knows we need that in this area, right?
Yes, she is so thoughtful. She thinks... she's just so smart.
Yeah. She's going to join us Friday here on Wake Up Mid-Missouri. So after she's sworn in tomorrow evening, actually. Okay, so I understand that you met some people in high places down in Mar-a-Lago, Florida recently. Tell us about that.
Yeah, with my one of my best friends, former Rep. Sarah Walsh, and I. We go way back, and I got the invitation. Now, this was actually her and I's second time to be at Mar-a-Lago.
Wow.
She was there by herself when she was running for Congress, and then I had an invitation about a year and a half ago. I went with 3 other House representatives, and so that was so exciting. But Sarah and I, it was just a girl vacation. We were at the beach, but yes, we got to see President Trump.
Wow.
Mar-a-Lago is beautiful. I don't know if it's valued at $18 million. I would say more, but
it looks beautiful.
It is gorgeous.
Looks beautiful.
I was going to ask you, if you could get it for $18 million, it'd probably be a bargain, right?
Exactly. I'll just go write a check for it, at that amount. But no, I got to talk to former Florida Attorney General Pam Bondi, and we talked. She had worked with our former AG Eric Schmidt, now senator, on some issues. And I've met Sebastian Gorka before, but Sarah Carter, we had Kash Patel, Vivek Ramaswamy, on and on and on. Wow. But the theme was a Border 911 was what it was called. This was about the border and all the illegal immigration, and it's affecting us right here in Columbia, right here in Jeff City. Every state is a border state, and it's a crisis.
Mm-hmm. What was the general temperament of people there? Were they feeling optimistic that this really will not be just a puddle, this election, that there really is a true sentiment? Granted, it's the choir that you were with, but from what they're hearing among independents and maybe voters who didn't vote for Trump in 20 but voted in 16, are they more optimistic that this really is a movement that's going to see it through this November?
Yeah, when you're seeing all the crimes they're committing, not just like the murder of the nursing student, this is happening in every state, everywhere. We have crimes here in Missouri by illegal aliens, I call them. They're not undocumented. They are illegal. They're not to be in our country. We have a path to come in the door legally, but it's putting a burden on our law enforcement, our judicial system, our jails. I am so happy that we authorized over $2 million. We have right now Missouri National Guard down there and some of our highway patrolmen, but we just reauthorized a week ago over $8 million more toward the border. We have got to step up because the federal government is not.
That's right. Yeah. And in a way, it's a very small R Republican way of thinking these things through, right?
Without a border, you're not a country.
Let the states do it. And we're all now a border state with the way they're being transported all over the place.
People don't know they flew a plane of them into Springfield in the dark of night about a year and a half ago.
Wow, didn't know.
Oh, yeah. They're busing right up I-44 and dropping them off.
Oh.
Cheri, can I follow up on what you said about the Cole County commissioners and the property tax issue? You said you've heard from some constituents there who have questions about it. I think there's a lot of confusion out there for a lot of people who said, well, we heard this went on the books when the legislature passed it, and the presumption was it was going to be automatic for seniors. Well, that's not the case, is it?
Correct. The way Senate Bill 190 says is each individual county makes that decision, and there's two paths. There's about 14 counties that have already done this in some fashion. Others are looking into it. I think they're taking the wait-and-see approach. We have a fix in both the House bill and a Senate bill. Right now, something will get passed to kind of clarify any gray areas. And so if a commission takes no action, then citizens can do the initiative petition process. So I've been reached out to. I'm putting a call into them today to kind of give them the process. I work with an organization out of St. Louis County called motaxreliefnow.org, and they're helping all of us around the state do this process.
All right. Cheri, I have to ask you about something that we had an interesting discussion last Friday with Becky Arps, who was backing SJR 78, I believe, which has a House version as well. It's about the language. It's a constitutional amendment. And it's about the language that says only citizens, not all citizens, which would basically disable municipalities, blue municipalities, from allowing, elections by non-citizens in their thing. And also it does away with ranked choice voting. What are your thoughts on that? It sounded pretty good to me. What do you think?
Yeah, I agree with Becky. She is a friend of mine. Yeah. I did hear the after discussion on that, even though I was in Florida at the time in airports. But she is completely right. So we actually have some language we're going to be adding to the Senate bill, the SGR, to make sure you're citizen only.
Yeah.
I just was reading within the last week, Washington, D.C. proper, the government, the municipality of it passed that illegals can vote.
Wow.
But this is California. It's everywhere. And it's going to creep into Kansas City and St. Louis.
Absolutely.
I can bet you.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And finally, recently, I don't think it's been proven, but there was a high-speed auto chase after a carjacking started up here on Conley Road, Columbia, ended up at the airport down in Jefferson City. And from all we can tell, the guy had a Mexican ID, did not have any U.S. or Missouri ID. Let's assume that now illegal immigration has come to our fair area in mid-Missouri. I asked David Tyson Smith at the governor's prayer breakfast, what are we going to do to preempt this? What are we going to do to make sure that these people are deported, locked up, whatever? Well, it's not a problem yet. We'll deal with that when we see it. And I respect David Tyson Smith. I think it's a mistake not to get in front of it. You?
I am seeing it in Columbia, Jeff City, everywhere in mid-Missouri. I've talked to our sheriff, Dwayne Carey. It is a problem, and if he's able to, when they're jailed on a charge, if the prosecutor may be willing to drop the charges, they can deport them. The ICE can come pick them up.
Should the General Assembly do something now before this becomes an epidemic?
Yes. So we have several bills going right now. I don't know that they're going to get across the finish line. So it comes down to local law enforcement, state, federal, and it's an all of the above approach.
Yeah.
They're all over. They're working for cash under the table. They're clogging up our courts. You have to have translators. They don't speak English. Yeah.
Well, it's bad.
It's a problem. It's a bad problem right here.
I know that you need to get down to do the very important work of the people at the Capitol. Thanks for stopping by with us and telling us
I'm going to run out the door like I ran in.
And you know what? Even though
for you, Randy, because
good.
I was calling you
Yeah?
not poopy pants, as you like to say.
Yeah.
I was calling you cranky this morning.
I'm not cranky.
No, you're not now. You're good now.
I wasn't ever cranky this morning.
You were having a Chicken Little moment this morning. It's fine. It's fine.
No. Over
The
what?
donut
Well, no.
salvaged it.
I was
Oh,
afraid,
yeah, there you go.
I was afraid that Cheri had an accident or something, but she came in right on time. She just very well timed. I was worried our guest wasn't going to be here.
I like when you get in a tizzy and Helene and I just kind of make eye contact like, oh my gosh, this
Now,
guy.
see,
Anyway.
John, she calls it a tizzy. I call it conscientiousness.
Yeah.
It's conscientiousness. You have a product. You're trying to produce entertaining and informative radio for the audience.
Well, John, he's all worried about it. And I said, well, did you text her? No.
To which I responded, we're eating up your time here, but to which I responded, I'm going to presumptuously text a state representative and remind, no, I'm not going to do that. No.
You just do like a buddy check, like, hey, just checking in, making sure you're okay. And so I did that, and I got a response in about 30 seconds, and I, put the whole thing to rest right
Okay, there you
Yeah.
go. What's
Anyway,
More Stingray news?
no more Stingray news. I have a feel-good story, and it comes to us from the state of New York.
Okay.
Okay.
And it involves the eclipse.
Yeah.
And this
Okay.
story is probably cooler than the entire eclipse was. This New York teacher in the year 1978 made a promise to his students that in the year 2024, when there would be, this big eclipse, this teacher promised that he would host a viewing party for his students.
Okay.
And he told his students back in the 70s, watch out for the local newspaper because I'm going to put an ad in the paper with all the details, right?
Whoa.
And he did that. He also started a Facebook group about 2 years ago, just kind of reminding some of the former students, give it time to kind of circulate that, hey, I am holding my promise that I held in 1978.
Wow.
And almost 100 of his former students showed up to his eclipse viewing party. And I thought that was so cool.
That is cool. You're right.
He bought them all eclipse glasses.
Yeah.
Cool. Did he do it like in a microbrewery or something?
No, it looks like they're in his driveway and like lawn chairs, which is even better, right?
Yeah.
I
It's
did
like a
look-
very low-key event,
Yes.
but just a chance for him to catch up with some of his students and to fulfill
I was doing a little research in preparation for this segment because I want to talk about this law enforcement restitution fund. And I just have to ask, did your parents know when you were birthed that you were going to be a prosecuting attorney and name you Locke? Because John Locke defined political power as, quote, a right of making laws and penalties of death, and consequently all less penalties to protect the property of the community, defend it from foreign attack, and promote the public good. So did they know that there was going to be some future prosecuting attorney in Locke Thompson?
They did not. Unfortunately, the story's not that good. It's just an old family name. So.
I was trying. I was just thinking. Okay. Hey, let's talk a little bit about the law enforcement restitution fund that you've been promoting.
Mm-hmm. So basically a law enforcement restitution fund, for short called a LERF or sometimes a CLERF in other counties, is a fund that's set up by statute. Statute is 50.565 in the Missouri Revised Statutes. And what it does is it allows a county commission to pass an ordinance that would allow the courts on criminal cases, on all felonies and Class A and B misdemeanors, to order an amount of restitution to be paid by the defendant up to $300. That's the maximum you can do on any case. But to offset the costs that our law enforcement incur and that our prosecutors' offices incur in investigating cases, charging cases, and trying cases. And so in that sense, the idea is that people who have been found guilty of committing crimes against this community and against citizens of this community are also somewhat on the hook for the costs that are incurred for enforcing the laws against them.
Locke, I'd like to ask you a question. Well, I don't think I asked you. I was going to ask you about it the last time we talked, but I didn't. Mm-hmm. It was 4 years ago when you filed charges in a cold case murder out of Russellville in Cole County, charged Chris Nemeth with murder and the death of his then 14-year-old classmate, Greg Jones. It's been 4 years since you filed on that. Where are we at with that case?
That case is still in pretrial litigation right now. So I don't believe right now that we have a trial date set. I would expect we're going to try and get one set for later this fall or possibly the winter.
For a prosecutor's standpoint, when you have a case that's that cold and all, and you're working with the sheriff's investigators and all, it's something, after you file charges, you'd like to get into the courtroom. How does this kind of hamstring your work on that? There has been a lot of follow-up that's been done, and that's been part of the delay. There have been continuances requested by both parties throughout. And, ideally, yes, you're getting a case in as quickly as you can. I think you expect on any sort of first-degree murder case, you're looking at least 2 to 3 years, probably, even if it's a case that's filed immediately. So I would say for the nature of the case, it's probably not that unusual, unfortunately.
Prosecutor Locke Thompson is our guest here, the Cole County prosecutor on Wake Up in Missouri. It's some really good information there on the Nemeth case, and I'm glad it's a huge case, folks, dating all the way back to 1991. Locke, two very quick questions, unrelated, because I definitely am interested in another case, but I want to ask you about this law enforcement fund that you reference. I'm just going to pick one case out of your jurisdiction, and that would be the Brant Fuchs case, where we had this big that came right by the radio station last year, big manhunt, the Columbia Police Highway Patrol helicopters, you name it. They had to, basically everybody in Old Hawthorne had to stay locked down. I mean, I saw the chase come right by. There probably were 30 police cars chasing this guy, and he got away. He got away 3 times. So I hate to think, and the helicopter cost what the cost was, and the police were, and they finally got him. But the point is, people have no idea. This is probably thousands of dollars, just one case here I'm talking about.
Oh, easily. And quite honestly, when you take a major case, and you're getting that ready for trial, if you want to think about what the attorneys are putting in, getting a case ready, similar to what they're doing on the investigative side, detectives and law enforcement on the front end, yeah, you're talking in the tens of thousands of dollars, if not more.
There is one case, and I know you're limited in what you can say about this, and I certainly understand that, but you sent me a release this week. This is, I think, a very important case. Francis Henry Kemker has been convicted of 2 counts of forcible rape. He lives in the Jefferson City area. He'll be sentenced later, but the trial revealed, Locke, that Mr. Kemper he's been convicted, would routinely bond women out of the Cole County Jail and then bring them to his shop in Centertown. Those women took the stand. I know you're limited what you can say. He's been convicted. What can you share with our listeners? Because the details in this release are horrendous.
Yeah, they really are. It was revealed during the trial that he did, as a matter of course, bond or attempt to bond women out of the jail, that on a few of those occasions that did result in the sexual assault of a victim. There were other instances where sexual assault was alleged to have occurred out there, not necessarily tied to bonding women out of the jail, but it was a really horrendous fact pattern. You're absolutely right. There's not a whole lot more I can say because as I noted in my press release, one of the 3 charges of rape came back without a verdict, and so that was a mistrial, and so there is still 1 charge outstanding.
And I understand that. Thank you, Prosecutor Thompson. Thank you for your service.
Prosecutor Thompson, remember when Jay Ashcroft was assaulted by the anti-Israeli protesters in Jefferson City recently by the fundraisers? Is anything going on in that realm as far as prosecution?
I cannot comment on pending investigations. I will say that.
Oh,
I'll take that as a positive.
Yeah. That was a page right out of the Merrick Garland playbook there. No, I'm kidding you. I know that you can't, but I went a little bit loose on that. I went a little crazy on that, Locke, and I apologize. It wasn't meant towards you personally, but I think a lot of these stories sometimes get lost. I mean, Jay Ashcroft wasn't knocked down. He said there was someone that darn near did that. And, I think us common blokes think like, my gosh, that may be considered a low-level crime. It's not high drama. There's not helicopters. There's not stabbings. There's not multiple gunshots on Conley Road or chases that end up in Jefferson City. But by golly, people need to be taught a lesson that you just don't treat people that way in a civil society. Your thoughts?
Yeah, absolutely. There's that almost sort of goes back to the whole broken window theory on crime, and you do have some prosecutors out there who focus solely on major crimes and ignore the drugs, ignore the theft, ignore the low-level assaults and things like that. But at the end of the day, people who start engaging in that behavior and start engaging relatively young, it tends to culminate in those major cases. And so, taking everything that comes across our desks very seriously, something that we always strive to do, and just do a thorough review, make sure that there's been a thorough investigation done, and if we have PC to go ahead and file charges, then we do so.
And I think the headline from Helene's, and I'm not going to put words in the prosecutor's mouth, the headline from your question and the prosecutor's response that he cannot comment on pending investigations leads me to believe that he's still investigating.
He's looking at it.
Yeah, he is. I think
that's the take-home point here.
Certainly, and it's still under investigation.
Locke, I can say that it is under investigation, yes.
Okay.
Thank you, sir.
Locke, we've had a lot of discussion on this program on Wake Up Mid-Missouri about relief for college debt and all that. I guess a question to you, are you seeing a lot of folks getting out of law school who, with a very expensive degree and a lot of loans, wanting to go somewhere other than the public side of jurisprudence for a career? And are you having challenges finding young lawyers who want to be assistant prosecutors?
Yeah, I think, and talking to some of my friends who are in the private sector right now, too, I think that's an issue that's kind of widespread across the legal community as a whole. Certainly one of the benefits that working in the prosecutor's office or a state government office can offer is that, after a certain amount of time, you can get loans forgiven. It's always hard salary-wise to compete with the private sector, and now with the Attorney General's office and the state, as a whole, starting attorneys and other staff out much higher than what we traditionally have. It is problematic at times.
That's tough. Hey, I have to ask you a final question. And again, we're talking with Cole County prosecuting attorney Locke Thompson. Do you guys go to conventions where you rub shoulders with some of the Soros people, like the Fannie Willises, the Alvin Braggs, the Kim Foxes, former circuit attorney Kim? And I mean, they don't do your profession, the very hard and important work that you do, whether it's Cole County, Boone County, the surrounding counties, the very hard day-to-day work that you do in keeping public safety at the forefront. Do you ever have conversations with them and say, guys, you're hurting our reputation, stand down, conduct yourselves better?
Well, the unfortunate reality of it was that, and you specifically mentioned, and I think the best Missouri example you could possibly think of would be Kim Gardner, obviously. Yeah. She was never really involved with the Prosecutors Association. We do have the Missouri Association of Prosecuting Attorneys, and we do have annual, actually twice a year trainings that we do for all prosecutors' offices around the state. The larger offices, like Jackson County, St. Louis County, and the circuit attorney's office, tend not to come because their offices are so large. I think they usually do their own in-house trainings. But at the same time, Kim never really got involved with us as an organization. I'm very pleased to say that her successor, Mr. Gore, has been very proactive in trying to mend that bridge and be a better part of MAPA.
Yeah, it sounds like he had a tremendous mess to clean up there, just, unprosecuted cases and just a disaster. It's good to see for the folks in St. Louis that people are getting their act together there. We're glad that you're looking after the safety of people in Cole County, Locke. Thank you for being with us. Really do appreciate it. And we recognize the service ethic that it takes to make a little less money, but be a public servant. So we thank you so much for that.
All right. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
All right. There he is, Locke Thompson. So, it's good to
was his final meal. He ate the ice cream alone in his windowless cell the night before he was scheduled to die. White supremacist Laurel Brewer of Texas, who was executed for the hate crime slaying of James Byrd, asked for 2 chicken fried steaks, a triple meat bacon cheeseburger, fried okra, a pound of barbecue, 3 fajitas, a meat lover's pizza, a pint of ice cream, and a slab of peanut butter fudge, and then didn't eat any of it.
Yeah.
Last person put to death in Iowa, Victor Ferguer, was a drifter who killed a doctor, dumped his body in the Mississippi. He requested a single olive with the pit still in it. Told guards he hoped an olive tree would sprout from his grave as a sign of peace.
Okay.
They later found the pit in his uniform. And Ricky Ray Rector requested and received steak, fried chicken, cherry Kool-Aid, and pecan pie. Rector suffered brain damage after shooting himself during his arrest, left the pie on the side of the tray, telling corrections officers who came to take him to the execution chamber that he was, quote, saving it for later. And now you know the rest of that story.
What, well, you know, we have a close-to-home story about last meals, John. It's in your news stack. What did Mr. Dorsey want before his execution at 6:11 p.m. last evening?
Mr. Dorsey was served his last meal at 11 a.m., 2 cheeseburgers, 2 orders of chicken nuggets, 2 large orders of French fries, and a pizza with sausage, pepperoni, onions, mushrooms, and extra cheese.
Wow.
Wow.
I don't know. I couldn't eat. That would be one of those times I'm sorry I couldn't eat.
Yeah.
Knowing I did
hear you
something
loud and
bad
clear.
and I'm going to be put down because of something bad I did, I couldn't eat. Sorry.
I don't know. I think I'd be the opposite. It's like, well, ain't
This
got
is it.
nothing else to lose.
Okay.
You just can't even imagine. You try to
I
put
can't.
yourself in that mindset.
I
and
could not
you know,
eat
I don't know.
if I
Randy-
My
Randy's
stock
last-
line when asked always was beans. Lots of beans.
That would be
To
execution.
get back at them.
That'd be going to the gas chamber, all right.
There you go.
Yeah.
Randy's last meal would probably be one of the roller dogs from
Yes.
the gas
Yes.
station,
No,
but
no,
it
I know
has
it-
to it has
no.
to be grass-fed beef hot dogs.
It would be Halos
Oh, I
and
love
string cheese.
Yeah, got them here in
Yeah.
my pocket.
Yes.
And kind bars that he loves so much.
Yeah. Kind bars is okay.
I don't know. You think about that. There's so many things you love. You know, what would you do?
Mushroom puff pastry that I make. That's what
that
I
was-
would. That's what I
She
would
makes
do.
this beautiful thing where she puts brie cheese in puff pastry with what kind of jam on it?
Apricot jam. or
Apricot
fig.
jam, and then bake it. Oh man, there's nothing like that.
I'm conflicted, and I mean, based off of the amount of food that Dorsey
Yeah.
got, maybe I could do both of these. It's hard to beat chicken tenders and French fries, and so a sandwich with toasted bread, extra crunchy Jif peanut butter, and strawberry jelly.
There you go.
Okay.
That's like my favorite breakfast ever.
Well, our favorite producer is producer Hannah, and you can vote for her in the Best of Columbia.
Oh.
The voting is open now. And,
42 years, no
there
relation,
you go.
yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, you have
Holistic-
3 kids, so there were
Yes,
some relation.
Yeah.
Holistic nutritionist and culinary expert. So what's on the top of your list
so
today?
I wanted to start off with a feel-good. It's a personal thing, but I thought it would be a feel-good for everyone. My dad just turned 94 on last Thursday. My mom's going to be 95 in
I got
July.
it backwards. 94 dad.
And mom's at 95.
Wow.
And they're both the silent generation. And I wanted to point out the things that they have done in their lives that's good for everyone. It's a prevention thing. One is they work very, very hard. Dad was first one in his whole family to get a college education through the GI Bill, and then worked at a bar.
Well, he was on a Navy ship, and
Right.
that's where he
aircraft carrier.
did
right.
some of his law training. Right.
Right. And then he worked at Johnny Ryan's bar
Yeah,
to get through
bartender
St. Louis
through
through
law
law school.
school.
So he worked really hard. And then our house is attached to the office. So I learned to work. All of us kids learned to work very young, answering phones and everything at the age of. So anyway, and then mom and dad still eat home-cooked meals. Mom fixes the meals. Exercise. You can guess at 95, you're not, and 94, not walking a whole lot and doing a whole lot. But mom, her exercise is pushing the Aldi cart. She can no longer, she uses a walker, but then she uses the Aldi cart as her walker. And then very social. Mom and dad are social.
He's up at 6 a.m. in
Yes.
the office reading the Southern Law Journal, I think, which is a collection of statutes and
He can
stuff.
give you he knows any hot topic there is.
He stays busy, active in his profession.
And he's still doing cases. They make sleep a priority. They get the right amount of sleep. Very thankful all the time. So stress
Gratitude
level,
is important.
and then strong faith in God. So, but the topics I wanted to talk to you about are all related to that. So what can we do to maybe, hopefully, do the best you can, and then maybe whatever you want to do later in life, if you want to die in the fishing stream as opposed to living in the nursing home the rest of your life.
Chicken nuggets, double pepperoni
No,
pizzas, and fettuccine Alfredo.
No, occasionally.
I feel attacked.
No. Truly, occasionally. That's all right. But there was an article about poor oral health, and you don't think oral health is related to your health, but it really is. And they did this study where they tracked people that had very bad periodontal health, and then they just did surveys of women. It was women that they were tracking how often do you get your teeth cleaned, how often do you floss your teeth. They had the same tracking for lower morbidity.
You know, there's a pretty good body of evidence that preterm labor occurs. One of the risks for preterm labor and delivery, which is a serious problem in America. That's the big problem that we have in terms of neonatal, problems with 28, 30 weekers that are born. They spend time in the NICU. They end up having vision problems, GI problems, sometimes, developmental problems just because they're so premature. So premature delivery is a big deal. And one of the risk factors for that is poor dental health, especially that gum health. So how do you know, what's a little screening tool if you might have a problem with your gums?
Okay, so
floss?
I just not floss. So if you're flossing and you're spitting out blood, you haven't flossed enough.
That's right.
And it smells. I'm sorry. I'm just going to say it when you're flossing and it smells. You're not doing it on a regular. And you don't think that the dental hygienist is important, but they are. Going
It's a
in
big
there
deal.
and getting a check on it.
It
once
has
in a
to
while.
do with, because
inflammation.
it's inflammation.
That's what it's
Say
all
it
about.
all together now.
Inflammation.
We are doing, as one of the studies, now your insurance company won't acknowledge that getting a marker of inflammation, one of them, common one is called CRP, C-reactive protein, and we are getting those pretty routinely now in people.
Right.
Insurance company won't pay for it, but you can pay cash for it, and it's very cheap if you just
super
pay
expensive.
it direct to a hospital or facility. Man, we're getting high numbers, and that just means people have low levels of inflammation. Sometimes it's a bad hip or knee or whatever, but very often it's dental health. Do not neglect that. It's important. It affects your cardiovascular system, your nervous system. If you're pregnant, you don't want to be in poor dental health because you might have preterm delivery is a problem there. So be careful about that.
Another thing is healthy gut bacteria. Now, you don't think 75% of your immune system is actually in your gut, and that your gut bacteria weighs about 2 pounds. That's a pretty healthy amount. We all have about a 1 trillion gut bacteria in us, every one of us. Which they were saying end to end from here to the moon we could get there with the healthy gut.
We have
almost
as many bacteria in our gut as Mayorkas has let across the border illegally.
Yes.
Almost.
And that gut bacteria is in your large intestine predominantly. predominantly.
So what do we do about it?
The study, well, this particular study was about a type 2 diabetics, and what can you do
Hauswirth
to
just
promote
perked up there.
healthy gut bacteria?
Yeah.
Lots of fiber. Lots of fiber. They actually did a study of 11,000 Hispanics. They have a higher propensity for type 2 diabetes, and they did better when they had more fiber in their diet, less type 2 diabetes.
So Brian,
I think Randy's going to be too nice and not call me out here. Okay.
No, we have a story.
I talk a lot about how I have a hard time eating fruits and vegetables. And I know that it's a problem, right?
Well, okay, so that's all right. You could start off with pick out one fruit or vegetable you like. What's your favorite vegetable? Pick out one.
Green beans.
Okay, let's start with green beans. Start with that, and then maybe go to the next thing. How about red peppers?
Well, see, the problem is when I buy produce, I'm lazy and it just rots in my fridge.
Right, I get it.
It's not so much that I don't like many of them. It's just,
well, there's
and
hope.
It's expensive.
Hannah, there's hope. The Wall Street Journal reports on the race to make a sexy fiber supplement.
Ooh.
Companies are pitching fiber products to young people, aiming to be the Metamucil for the Stanley Cup generation. Hannah, this article is for you.
It's beautiful.
Did you see the billboard campaign by a company called Belly Welly? They had a campaign. They had a campaign called Hot Girls Have IBS, irritable bowel syndrome.
I love it.
And you know, it's hard to imagine that company would feel bashful about frank marketing, but no, they're not, because they want to get the word out there. And you know what? We're seeing increasing rates of colon cancer, other cancers in young people. Yep. I think it has to do with ultra-processed food.
Right.
It's bad for your gut. It's bad for your immune system. It's bad for your brain. It's bad for your heart and your vascular system. So when you eat fiber, first of all, it nourishes the colon. Right. Yep. It increases transit time of the things that you eat that can be toxic to the colon and set up the early...
And it actually nourishes, that fiber nourishes the good gut bacteria.
And I tell my diabetic patients to have a little fiber before you eat, maybe take a fiber capsule, because it will help retard the rate of absorption of sugar from the starches and sugars you eat into your body, and fats too. So whether you have high lipids, high cholesterol, high triglycerides, high sugar, eat more fiber. I'm telling you, fiber, it's a gas.
And,
fiber pills, too.
And they're also talking about psychobiotics that having to do, people that are depressed, traditionally they get depression medicine, which is great, but then put that together with psychobiotics, prebiotics and probiotics targeted for depression.
So what's a prebiotic for people to know?
A prebiotic would be onions, Jerusalem artichokes, asparagus.
It's fertilizer for the bacteria.
Right. And
It's fertilizer for the bacteria.
The probiotics would be fermentable food, like kimchi,
that contain
yogurt,
the biotic.
kefir.
They contain, so probiotics have the good bacteria, and the prebiotics nourish the good bacteria. So
correct.
It's very important to do both.
Very interesting. I think this is a fascinating discussion. I think the oatmeal I have found
very good.
Oatmeal,
Perfect.
and I was told by my doctor that you both know him very well, that I needed to increase the fiber, so I've been doing oatmeal, and it also makes you feel, but gives you more strength in terms of that. Eating more fruits and vegetables is huge. And the only other point I make, you guys brought such a good point about the importance of dental visits and dental hygiene.
Yes.
State Representative Rudy Veit has a bill, and our listeners may not understand this, but inmates not only, it's the right thing to do because the corrections officers are in there, and but they're required. The state of Missouri is required to provide health care and dental care to the inmates. He's got a bill that would help get more dentists into the prisons. And again, a lot of people don't realize the state's required to provide the health care, not only by state law, but the Supreme Court. But Rudy Veit has that bill, and a lot of
staff or offenders.
It would be, the staff would be able to get dental care, but it's primarily for the offenders.
Is that part of your husband works for the state, Hannah? Is that part of the standard state insurance plan and coverage? Do they have some dental plan or not?
I believe so, yes.
They do.
Very, very important.
We have a text from listener James, 874-9390.
Yeah.
He is asking if the doctors have a fiber pill that they would recommend.
Yeah, well, we prefer if you get it through food because you get the other good nutrition. But there's a good.
And he's also asking for food recommendations that would be.
Yeah, there's a fiber pill called FiberCon. There's all kinds of FiberAll. It really doesn't matter. Just get anything that has, but preferably you want, as you said with oatmeal, there's both the non-digestible fiber and then sort of the hard fiber that you think of, and then there's the soluble fiber. It's soluble in water.
Right.
Both of those are important components.
And I think as far as vegetables, the stars are the cruciferous.
Yeah.
The cabbage, the kale, the cauliflower, the Swiss chard, and the
And my
Brussels
favorite,
sprouts.
bok choy.
Yes.
I love bok choy.
What the heck is that?
You got to come to our house.
It's an Asian.
It's an
Bok
Asian
choy.
cabbage.
Well, when you get
Asian
stir fry,
cabbage.
very often we get stir fry at the Chinese or the Asian restaurant. They'll have bok choy in there. It looks a little bit like celery. Very, very good. Bok choy. Excellent.
Very interesting.
Now, cruciferous vegetables. Here we are, just
It
past
sounds,
Easter.
It sounds
Okay.
dangerous.
No. You cut any of those vegetables in the middle, and you'll see a cross.
No, when you take a stalk and you cut across the stalk, and you look down at a cauliflower or a broccoli.
Well, we know I don't eat cauliflower.
We're just past Easter.
Sure.
You know about
Yeah,
this,
of course.
And you see a cross. It's a cross shape. That's why they call them cruciferous vegetables.
Yes.
And for ladies out there, there
Absolutely.
are chemicals. There are chemicals
Sulforaphanes.
called sulforaphanes. One of them is indole-3 methanol, but that's another thing. What it does is it helps change the metabolism of the estrogen, that very good lady hormone, into one that's less avid in encouraging the growth of breast tissue. So it may help reduce your risk of some of the estrogen-dependent cancers, like breast and uterine cancer.
There actually are supplements that mimic what's in cruciferous vegetables. We recommend it for people
DIM
that have
is
been
one of them,
through
DIM.
that have been through a cancer treatment.
Yeah. So, look, it's really, we joke about it, but gut health is so crucially important to your overall health. Take good care of your friends that live with you, those trillions of bacteria, and they'll take good care of you. That's the bottom line.
That's absolutely.
And take good care of your teeth and your gums, and they will take good care of you.
That's right.
Anything else on your plate?
Vitamin S.
Vitamin
Gotta
S.
get
What's
to
vitamin S?
Okay, vitamin S is being social with people. And actually,
Gross.
no, this is a good thing.
The social media queen? What do you mean?
They
You're
did
social.
a study on people that in Finland that just had a close group of friends and didn't talk to anybody else but their close group of friends. They didn't do well as far as their long mortality. They 28% lesser mortality. The people that did the best with the long are the people that said hi to their neighbors, hi to strangers. Saying hi to a stranger is actually good for your health, believe it or not.
Yeah.
And they did studies on this.
I feel attacked again.
Socialization is very important.
Okay, you know
Very
what's really
important.
good about that, Hannah? Because I'm an introvert.
paid such a dear price from 21 on that they still haven't caught up altogether and made up for that. The March CPI report says that the numbers are up, both core and the headline inflation number. The core is, of course, that without fuel and groceries. And what's that doing to the markets? Yesterday, while the markets were unchanged, it's carnage today. Before the open here at 8:30 Central, 9:30 Eastern, down 430 points in the Dow Jones Industrial.
This happens every time Stephanie leaves town, I swear.
Well, I mean, it's bad.
Am I wrong, John?
The futures
I
are down.
think you're on the money.
NASDAQ down 250 points. I mean, you're talking pretty, this looks to be bad. Treasuries are up, of course, so when inflation's up, interest rates are going to stay. Well, interest rates are going to stay up. The Fed has already telegraphed that the 2 or 3 rate decreases that they thought earlier in the year might be happening probably won't be happening.
Now they're talking September for the smart folks say maybe for a Fed cut.
Yeah, I think that's going to dissolve away. That's just going to evaporate. Look, when you have a government that has pumped money in and continues under Democrat progressive leadership to think that the answer to the country's economic woes is more government spending, this is what's going to happen. I mean, it doesn't take Aaron Hedlund, even though it will take Aaron Hedlund tomorrow to fully explain this.
Right.
I mean, this is what happens. And Aaron will really break this down for us tomorrow. He'll be with us from Show Me Institute tomorrow on the program. And I really am interested in what he thinks. I really think John, think about it. We had Brad Jones on yesterday talking about pessimism in the business community, small business community. Well, a decrease in optimism, which I translate to pessimism. And now we see inflation numbers staying high. I don't think we've seen the end of recession chances. I think
when we talked to Brad yesterday from NFIB, he sort of danced around inflation, the number is at 3%, and he said, well, yeah, that's fine if you build that into it, but the small business people are still having a heck of a time.
Yeah.
Factoring that in and finding qualified people to work and all that.
And in the category of vile and deceitful politicians, Joe Biden continues to talk about what a wonderful job his economic policies have done when we know that the vast majority of the so-called newly created jobs, many of which are just backfilling old lost jobs during the COVID debacle, which was a huge mistake. Trump was partially guilty of that. So were many of than the smartest human being. They'll be smarter than any human being by the end of next year, which launched a conversation about people can do now to prevent dementia later. Dementia is going to be an epidemic. It already is a rising epidemic. John, I know you know, we know, so many people know or have family members who've struggled with that. And we start thinking about it when you're middle-aged and beyond. Many of you listening, of course, have thought about that. It's very interesting. And John, I saw something in this story. There's a researcher who's done a lot of work on this, and she says that among the risk factors include certain groups of people lose cognitive function faster. That includes, listen up, everyone, in the light of the constitutional amendment legalizing marijuana. That includes people who began using cannabis or tobacco as teenagers and continue to use in their 40s. As well as people with toxic lead in their blood, and there's other groups. I mean, we know that the same risk for cardiovascular disease is, has relationships to not as much delivery of oxygen and blood to the brain. So of course you don't get oxygen and nutrients. That's a problem. But John, I don't know, man. People take this. We've already got alcohol in the brain. Some of us, not me, but a lot of us have nicotine or tobacco on the brain. Yeah. And then, you pile on the cannabis thing. I don't know whether it's going to set up a problem in years to come. What do you think?
I think it does. I think it has a potential there. You see some of the research on it, and they talk about the high strength of the modern marijuana and all, and even the entry level stuff is just potent.
And Hannah, we love you, right? We know we love you. That's why we try to give you some advice for people that have gone. We haven't always practiced what we preached, and it took a pretty serious illness for me in the 90s that sort of got my attention.
Both of us got the attention.
It was a hormonal problem.
There's about to be a big butt in there somewhere.
No. It took we realized that to change.
That launches a whole new life for us, where we talk a lot about health and wellness, and we talk about increasing the health span. Right. I mean, modern medicine's done a lot to increase lifespan, but with a handful of pills and a bunch of procedures and a gradual.
And traditional medicine is still good.
It's great.
It's good as you got to have that too.
Yeah. But you need to take care of yourself, eating a more nutritious diet, including maybe a little bok choy, just saying, getting exercise, sleeping sufficiently. Hannah, you don't get enough sleep.
She's working on it,
You're working too hard.
She's telling us she's working on it.
I'm trying.
Good.
I started taking melatonin and magnesium every night to try to get myself, a little more tired for an earlier bedtime.
Yes. We've been working with a lot of folks that have who doesn't have a Charlie horse nor then, but a lot of patients have restless legs, Charlie horses, things, and they make magnesium lotions and oils.
I just bought it. I'm going to try it. They say just spray it on your feet, and then and like 15 minutes later you get a little tired. I haven't tried it yet.
And we talked about socialization. That's important too. Staying socially and mentally active and engaged. We talked about your 94 and 95-year-old parents who are still
on it
in there. And I think most people as they age, they want to stay relevant. So whether you're professionally working in a for-profit environment, whether you become philanthropic and you go and join a church outreach group or go on missions, there's a lot of opportunities. I think the old notion of just going to the beach with a metal detector and sitting around drinking cocktails all day, that 60s and 70s version of retirement, that's probably not healthy. Probably. Well, if you're walking the beach a long time, that's fine. Right. But it's just, you got to be careful about that, right?
That's right.
And saying hi to your neighbor.
That's very important. And I would add one other very important thing. Everything you guys both said is true, but also for you sons and daughters out there and grandparents, go and visit your grandparents at the nursing homes. Go and visit them at the retirement communities, because they want to. I've met some talking to my mom and dad. They don't have anybody to go visit them. It's just it's disgusting. It is disgusting.
I've done that over the last 10 or 12 years from people in our church that have had problems, whatever their problem is, and I visit them, and it's funny. You think it's all about you're only helping them. Not only are you helping them, you're helping yourself.
That's right.
You're helping their spouse, because their spouse feels like, okay. And then I've also heard from other people, if you put your name in that you're coming to see them, then the staff thinks, oh my gosh, that person's important.
That's right.
So there's a lot more going on than you think. It's all about, you're just helping them.
That's
it's
exactly
really
right.
important.
No, so spot on. And don't forget the one quote: "Whatsoever you do to the least of my brethren, you do unto me."
That's right.
Let's not forget that, folks.
Absolutely.
No, you're absolutely right. Speaking of this, it's late in the program to bring this up, but I got to thinking the other day. I didn't realize this, but okay, the Arizona Supreme Court yesterday came down and basically said that they have reinstated an 1864 law that makes it punishable with imprisonment, to have an abortion. And the ruling is on hold for 14 days, but it really raises the specter of this whole abortion argument and how important this is in this political season. They may have just thrown a real roadblock to any success that Kerry Lake or anyone else may have, that is more pro-life. But you wonder, there was a time in this country when the general consensus was you don't do an abortion, right? I mean, this is not, there were more than one state that had laws dating back to the 19th century, right?
Back alley kind of stuff.
Well, and that resulted in back alley stuff. Okay, but we have a law against murders and people still do murders. It doesn't make the notion wrong. And I think it's something that, remember what our founding fathers said, without a moral and religious society, people, this constitutional republic can't stay together. Mm-hmm. This is a reflection of the morality and the sanctity of every human life. I still will maintain that I wish we could get to that place where whether a baby is conceived in the right way or, big air finger quotes, the wrong way, it's not the baby's fault. And we need to really ponder that. Have we come to a point in this country where an individual's decision about another's potential pre-life experience subordinates that other individual? I'm just asking the question.
Great question. Great question.
We used to live in a time when, it was a shame that women would seek a back alley abortion. Does that make abortions right? Does that make the decision to get an abortion right? These are existentially important questions. Mm-hmm. These are questions that every woman has to ask as she contemplates that. And I respect the difficult place that people find themselves in. I was on another outlet the other day when I said, the people that these dinks who are not having kids, when people don't have
dual income, no kids.
One of the argument that people use for dinkness is, well, I don't want to bring a baby into the poor, and people would say that's a reason to have abortion because after all, you don't want that poor baby to come into a world. Well, you know what? If you voted for more free market, socially responsible leaders who advocated doing the right thing, personal responsibility, and personal freedom at the same time, because those two go together, and for a better economy, the progressive economy is not working out well. We just talked about the CPI numbers. They're still high, 3.5%. That's not where it needs to be. And that's compounded on top of the 9 and 10% we saw in 21, 22. What about this? We would have fewer abortions because if we had a better economy, women who faced an unwanted pregnancy would not be worried about supporting that baby because they would be making more. Maybe their boyfriend or husband would be making more and would be more willing to support them. Think of it the other way.
It's kind of the age-old argument, isn't it? I mean, if young people would have waited till things were perfect to have kids since the dawn of time, we wouldn't be around anymore.
Right, you're right.
Your parents grew up in the Depression.
Right.
And they had, 4 kids, right?
Yeah, they had.
I mean, people have asked me in medical school, when's the best time to have a baby? I said, when you fall in love and you get married and you have a baby, that's the best time.
I know for my husband and I as newlyweds, we would like to purchase a house before we have kids.
It would be nice.
But there's we have this conversation a lot. We finish paying the bills every month and we look at what's left and we go, how would we ever raise a kid? How would we ever pay a mortgage? How would we ever pay for daycare with what's left? And my family has told me, my mom especially, I think she's got ulterior motives potentially. But we've gotten the speech of there's never a right time, and you just somehow figure it out.
And isn't this an ironic twist, though? When the nuclear family has been absolutely exploded as the welfare state has come up and government becomes the dad in the house. Government becomes the daycare supporter. Government this, government that. Isn't it ironic that Yes, you just talked about the answer. The answer is returning to a nuclear, tightly knit family. Brian, you talked about it. Moms and dads, instead of going to the beach with your metal detector, get involved in the kids. If they think they can't hack it, help them out.
That's right, and be thankful for what you have.
Yes,
absolutely.
I mean, my God, these people today. It's just I didn't grow up with a lot of stuff, but I was grateful for everything that we had. And things weren't, you mentioned your grandparents.
Yeah,
and
my
stuff.
dad, mom. Yeah,
the Great Depression. I remember talking to my grandmothers when they were both still alive, and they said people were living in cardboard boxes in the Great Depression and stuff, literally.
Right.
But the people were thankful.
Yes.
They had what they had, and they just, you just be thankful
They never
for what
said it. My dad didn't have a bed. His bed was underneath the dining room table, and they pushed it out at night.
Yeah.
I mean, you never know it.
Yeah, it's
extremely thankful.
It's in that generation specifically was very grateful. And that's, by the way, why Social Security started.
Yeah.
FDR started it during that time because there was no retirement in those days.
And lest you think you have a bunch of talking heads who know nothing about the economy and you're just a bunch of angry conservatives. And here's the Wharton School of Business's João Gomez talking about Joe Biden's out-of-control spending.
Vice Dean Dr. João Gomez recently warned lawmakers the unsustainable debt could be catastrophic for the country.
Its consequences will be severe and leave lasting and probably irreversible scars on our economy and society.
Gomez's warnings included the potential for a recession, a spike in interest rates as the value of the dollar plummets, and further inflation pain affecting all corners of the country.
So, you can continue to vote for your short-term gain by the plunder of others, or you can decide to restore to a smaller government, small r Republican form of government, where if you want money spent, you go to the State House rather than to Washington, D.C.
Right.
You keep more of your money, you school your kids in the school you want to school them in, and you don't let the government indoctrinate your children to that death spiral of economic despondency, which is dependence on the government. It never, ever works out well.
Very, very interesting. We'll see what happens. I think a lot of this
the Google search to get you this information.
You said, Randy, I've got one that when I think of opening day of turkey season, I think of you. Something like that, you said.
Well, so we've had this story for the last couple days from the Missouri Department of Conservation.
Yeah.
And they have changed the rules for turkey hunting. Now, these are going to apply to the fall season later this year. So the season that starts on Monday and runs through the beginning of May will not be affected by these new turkey limits. But the Department of Conservation is changing the fall turkey limits from 4 to 2.
Mm-hmm.
And that's regardless of the sex of the turkey that you bag. So,
I think that's because the turkey numbers, while they were really high in the late 90s and early 2000s, they've gradually declined for a number of reasons. My friends in the great department there at MDC, they talk about habitat decline. That's been a problem. I think there may be an element of some less trapping of some of the predator species, for turkey eggs, raccoons and stuff. But mainly it's habitat, and so I guess
domestic dogs will go after the nest to get it.
You're right. So, I can shoot and either with your bow or your gun, fewer in the fall. It seems to me to be a lot tougher and less prolific hunting. People, not as many hunters in the fall. I don't do fall turkey
turkeys
hunting.
in the yard the other day.
Yeah. Did you?
Yeah.
Wow. I didn't realize that some of the
few
congressmen and senators
around.
were there. I didn't. Oh no!
Oh,
just kidding.
Stop.
Just kidding. I'm just kidding. Of course.
oh
No.
boy.
Yeah. No, I'm just kidding. Only the federal variety, not our friends at the state house.
Yeah, backtrack there.
Do you hunt turkey, John?
Sporadically.
Hannah, would you give John and I the day off someday to go turkey hunting in the next few weeks? We could do that, maybe.
I don't know. That feels more like a weekend activity.
Yeah. Okay.
Long
No,
weekend.
I love hunting during the turkey season. What else
Shout
is
out
on
to
your
Mizzou. 14% increase in enrollment at Mizzou.
Good.
95% of graduates are either higher education or get jobs right away.
That's great.
And they're attracting 35% of the incoming students are ranked in the top 10% of their 2023 high school class.
So
they'll be raising
that's
tuition
pretty
here again
cool.
shortly.
So more enrollees.
MIZ.
Well, that's because they know they can just use AI to answer the questions. They don't need to do their own independent thinking. Right?
Stop.
No, I'm just
all
kidding.
three of
just
our
kidding.
kids went to Mizzou, and they're
They
doing
did
really
Boy,
well.
We're
all
so
three
proud of them. They did a great job. Got a great education there. John?
Mizzou football team, if we're talking about Mizzou, we're going to open up the football season with our third year in a row of Thursday night football at Furrow Field.
Huh.
Tigers will take on Murray State, 7 p.m. Thursday, August 29th, to start up the season.
Team's going to have a different look. I think that didn't they recruit a hotshot quarterback? Matt Zollers?
Yeah, the kid out of Pennsylvania who
He
was
doesn't
like
start until
top
next
6
season.
in that state.
Oh.
He doesn't start till next season.
Yeah, he's for 2025, but that will be a big.
They
That's a
recruit
big
him as
get.
juniors now.